Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Geostrategic Podcast. Thank you for watching or listening to the podcast. Did the United States just quietly begin a massive military buildup in the Middle East? This is no longer only about aircraft carriers. Troops, bombers, missile defense systems, and strategic assets are now moving into one of the world's most dangerous regions. So what does Washington know that the public doesn't? Is this deterrence or preparation for something much bigger? In the next few minutes, I'll break down what's happening, why it matters, and what could happen next. Before we begin, hit like, subscribe, and share this video so more people can see it. And now I want to hear from you. What do you think this buildup really means? Peace through strength, or signs of coming conflict? Drop your opinion in the comments below. I'll be reading them all.
Thanks for having me. There is definitely a lot to cover with this one.
There really is. And the mission of today's deep dive is to basically dissect the latest news on this massive deployment. Right? We need to unpack the immense hardware involved and the geopolitical shockwaves it's creating.
Absolutely. Because to truly grasp what's happening, you have to look at the sheer unprecedented scale of what's moving into the water right now.
Right. So what are the actual facts we're looking at?
Well, based on the latest updates, the U.S. is operating 3 distinct aircraft carriers simultaneously in the Middle East. That's the USS Abraham Lincoln, the Gerald R. Ford, and the George H.W. Bush.
Wow. 3 carriers at the exact same time.
Yeah, 3. And, we haven't seen a concentration of naval power like this in the region since the Iraq War era back in 2003.
Which is wild, right? I mean, 2003 was a completely different geopolitical landscape.
It was. And that historical context is crucial because back then, a multi-carrier presence was the precursor to a massive ground invasion.
Right.
Putting 3 carriers in one region is, it's a logistical nightmare. It's so astronomically difficult that it's rarely done without a very profound strategic reason.
Okay, let's unpack this because we aren't just moving ships. We are essentially parking 3 sovereign, fully armed floating cities off the coast of the Middle East.
That's a great way to put it, yeah.
Because, a carrier doesn't just sail by itself, right? It's bringing an entire ecosystem.
Exactly. The latest news confirms these are 3 full carrier strike groups, or CSGs. So the carrier is really just the centerpiece.
And what else is in that group? Just for, context.
So surrounding it, you have this massive screen of guided missile cruisers and destroyers, plus fast attack submarines running below the surface.
Acting like, what, silent scouts, basically?
Silent scouts, yeah, and long-range strike platforms. And we're talking about roughly 15,000 personnel currently deployed at sea.
15,000 people. That is just staggering. You have to feed them, coordinate them.
Keep them supplied, yeah. The logistical tail of supply ships running fuel and munitions is constantly moving.
Right.
And then, of course, there's the aircraft.
Right, the flight decks. Because it's not just ships, it's the air wings.
Exactly. We're looking at over 200 aircraft across these 3 groups. And it's the mix of these planes that's so potent. You've got FA-18s, but also F-35C stealth fighters.
Ah, so they're bringing the 5th-gen stuff into the mix.
Oh, heavily. And those F-35s act as really advanced data nodes. They fly deep into contested space, vacuum up all this electronic targeting data, and instantly share it with the older planes.
I see. So it's almost like the F-35 is the quarterback of the sky.
Right, exactly.
It reads the defense, processes the battlefield, calls the play, and the F-18s are like the running backs carrying the actual payload.
That is a perfect analogy. And they're backed up by electronic warfare platforms, too, which can blind enemy air defenses or create ghost targets on enemy radar.
So they can make it look like there's a massive fleet coming when there isn't.
Precisely. And, what's fascinating here is how this specific configuration provides overwhelming near-continuous air dominance across vast maritime zones without relying on land bases.
Yes, the land-based thing. That is such a huge strategic advantage.
It changes everything.
Because historically, if the U.S. wants to project air power, they have to navigate local politics, right? Like begging a host nation for runway access.
And negotiating basing rights, agreeing to limitations on what you can strike.
Exactly. And the constant fear that if tensions spike, the host nation will just say, no, you can't launch from here anymore.
Right. But these floating cities operate in international waters. They are sovereign U.S. territory. It completely bypasses regional political constraints.
Which naturally leads to the big question, if they have this unprecedented freedom, where are they focusing all that power?
Well, the recent news points heavily toward the Strait of Hormuz.
Right, the major maritime checkpoint.
Exactly. We are seeing a significant increase in enforcement actions there. The naval forces are actively ramping up inspections, interceptions, and the rerouting of vessels.
Suspected of what exactly? Like smuggling?
Yeah, mainly vessels linked to sanctioned Iranian networks. So illicit cargo and energy sector shipments.
Wow.
It's essentially a naval blockade in all but name. They are actively choking off Iran's economic and logistical reach.
Here's where it gets really interesting, and honestly, I have to push back a bit on this strategy.
Okay, let's hear it.
If the Strait of Hormuz is one of the world's most critical energy choke points, aren't we playing a dangerous game? By squeezing illicit trade so aggressively in a narrow waterway, aren't we just one intercepted cargo ship away from a global energy crisis?
That is an extremely valid concern. And honestly, yes, even a minor disruption there causes immediate price volatility.
Because it's not a wide open ocean, it's what, like 2 miles wide in the shipping lanes?
Exactly, it's a maritime bottleneck.
Yeah.
When you introduce 3 carrier strike groups conducting aggressive boarding operations with fast boats and helicopters.
In the middle of basically a maritime highway.
Right. It pushes the pressure gauge to the absolute limit. One misunderstood radio call or one stalled tanker, and you have panic in the major import-dependent economies.
Panic that directly hits the financial markets. The markets don't wait for bullets to fly, they just react to the tension.
They absolutely do. So the strategy is a tightrope walk. It's meant to apply maximum economic pressure on Tehran, but doing it in a glass house, essentially.
So then what is the actual end game here? Because according to CN Time, this is all about deterrence, right? Just maintaining maritime stability.
That's their stated posture, yes. But they are relying heavily on strategic ambiguity.
Meaning they aren't telling anyone exactly what their red lines are?
Exactly. They're keeping adversaries guessing. You don't want the other side to know exactly what will trigger a strike package of F-35s.
Right.
But meanwhile, the diplomatic channels aren't really moving. There's been no formal agreement to ease tensions, just whispers about economic relief.
So what does this all mean? We have 15,000 sailors, stealth fighters, and subs staring down a highly unstable region. Does this massive concentration of firepower actually stabilize the situation through pure deterrence, or does it just increase the risk of a catastrophic miscalculation?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, it really does both.
Both? How so?
On the one hand, it's stabilizing because the deterrence factor is absolute. No rational state actor is going to intentionally pick a fight with 3 U.S. carriers. The retaliatory power is just too devastating.
Sure, nobody wants to invite that kind of destruction on purpose.
Right. But on the other hand, the sheer density of forces makes it highly destabilizing.
Because of the risk of an accident.
Exactly. You pack that much high-end hardware into the Persian Gulf and the Gulf of Oman, and the probability of an unintended escalation just skyrockets.
I mean, we're talking about human beings operating this stuff, like 19-year-old radar operators working a 12-hour shift on a destroyer.
Tired, stressed, looking at a cluttered screen full of civilian and military assets.
Yeah.
A miscalculation here doesn't usually look like some deliberate, villainous attack. It looks like a misunderstood radar blip. Or a fast attack boat making a turn that gets interpreted as a hostile run.
And when you rely on strategic ambiguity, you don't have those clear diplomatic hotlines to instantly call and say, hey, that was an accident, stand down.
Exactly. A junior officer makes a split-second defensive decision, and you've got a geopolitical crisis before the diplomats are even awake.
That is just terrifying to think about. And, I want to connect this back to you, the listener, because all of this might sound like abstract military theory happening thousands of miles away.
But it's not abstract at all.
Not at all. This massive standoff directly dictates the global supply chains you rely on every day. It affects the price of gas at your local pump, the cost of heating your home. It impacts the entire stability of the world economy.
It really does. Every ripple in that narrow strait hits the global markets. And there's one more thing to consider here, something the latest updates haven't really answered.
Oh, what's that?
Well, ships need maintenance, nuclear reactors need servicing, and 15,000 sailors eventually need to rest.
Right. They can't stay out there forever.
Exactly. These carriers give the U.S. immense leverage right now, but they can't stay at sea forever. So what happens the day these 3 massive strike groups finally have to sail home?
Wow.
Does the sudden vacuum of power invite the exact conflict they were sent to prevent?
That is such a chilling thought. The idea that leaving might be just as dangerous as staying. We are definitely going to be watching the logistics of those deployments closely as this continues. Thank you, everyone, for listening to or watching the deep dive. I highly encourage you to check out our other podcasts for more insights on these critical global issues. Stay curious, and we will see you next time.